Good morning and happy Halloween, everybody. So, I just thought to break from the norm a little. This morning, instead of our verse by verse study through Exodus, which we have started, I was going to take a moment to talk a little bit about Halloween. Now, if you haven't caught some of the old stuff, I know they're all on YouTube, where we did a like 3 or 4 part series talking about Christmas. And I also did a video talking about Easter. And so, something I'm much less interested in talking about, but I think it's important because if you're watching from America, well, this is the world we live in. And so, how do we as Christians make the best of and utilize one of the most popular holidays in our country for the glory of God? I would rather not redo the good work that's been done by other people. Um, I've shared with our church Mike Winger's video on Halloween. He does a very good job of explaining really my own thoughts. YouTube channel, don't like all of his stuff, but sometimes he's got some really good stuff, is Inspiring Philosophy. And he did a video about, there's an 8 minute and there's a shorter 2 minute. If you got time for the 8, go check it out. Video on the history of Halloween. And he does a great job with the history of some of these holidays and the controversies that revolve around them. If you want me to regurgitate a little bit of his video, what we find with the history of Halloween is that it doesn't have to do as much with pagan, pagan is it's a broad term, but holidays as much. Really becoming nationally practiced things, what you find is this conglomeration in America, because it's an American holiday for the most part. In fact, I don't know what other places celebrate Halloween, but it really originated in America. And it was when different cultures came together, and it's a mix of all these different things. But All Saints Day, and you have, French tradition merging with some Irish traditions, merging with some British traditions. And so there was the guy in England who tried to blow up, Big Ben in Parliament. And there's that whole V for Vendetta movie. It's based off of that story. And like, so there became a holiday with people dressing up in masks and doing mischief and vandalism. You have other holidays dressing up like the dead for All Souls Day and All Saints Day and all of that. And then you have people getting together in America, and it's all turning into what's Halloween, where people were doing mischief, and then it seems as if people started bribing children, basically like, "Don't vandalize my house. Here's some candy," and all of a sudden, Trick or Treat was born. It's obvious that there is like 101 reasons to have nothing to do with Halloween. And I like how Mike Winger put it. He said, as a pastor, if I could just hit a button and make it disappear, I probably would, because there's so much not good stuff that it'd be great to get rid of it. But that's not the world we live in. And so I think it's good to get a Christian perspective on things, not just one of righteousness and God's holiness, but also one of grace, right? A heart for winning the lost, where mature believers are trying to reach out an olive branch to unbelievers and immature believers, right? And so here's some of the things we have to think about. Is that there's a fun pairing, the 1-2 punch of Romans 14. Is it Romans 14 like 23? It's the last verse of Romans 14. I always forget the actual verse number. But it says that to do something not in faith, if it cannot be done in faith, then it's sin. So right off the bat, if you or your friends are convicted about participating in, supporting, or celebrating anything related to Halloween, then you should honor that yourself if you're convicted, And you should honor their convictions if they're convicted. And it is an unchristian thing to do to call people a this or a that because they don't want to do Halloween. On the flip side, when people aren't convicted about things, this is not a gospel issue, right? This is not a salvation issue. And people treat it that way. And I don't think we're going to draw anyone in and help mature weak believers who maybe don't see problems and evil. You're not going to draw them in and edify and build them up by just calling them dumb and damned or whatever because they're doing these things. So here's the other side, though. If it's can't be done in faith, if you are convicted, then you shouldn't do it. Otherwise, it would be sin for you. But just because you're not convicted doesn't mean it's okay. If you don't feel convicted about dressing up as a naughty nurse, or you don't feel convicted about your children dressing up as zombies, ghouls, and goblins, well, then maybe you just need to read your Bible more. Okay, Minecraft zombie might be a little different. I don't know, right? But it's like, that's the point, though, is that there's a celebration of death. And as we look into these holidays, right alongside of Halloween is El Dia de los Muertos, right? And there's this, so that's down south. You'll find that that too is a direct mixture. When the Catholic Church came to Central and South America, they took a lot of Aztecan and Mayan, and they took the local traditions and mixed them with Catholic tradition. And right now I'm going to say Catholics are on our side as far as they believe in the Jesus, right? The Trinity. But they have a lot of other luggage they carry with them. And a lot of us Protestants have no interest in that luggage. Well, the Day of the Dead, the All Saints Day, you see they have All Saints Day, All Souls Day, then All Hallows Eve is the night, the 31st of October, before the first All Saints Day. Well, that moved into Mexico, and they took Aztec practices and combined them with All Saints Day and all these things to make the Day of the Dead that's celebrated there today. But some of the problems with all of that is the fact that if you truly go and learn about what goes on each day and why it goes on, and they talk about they ring the church bells in order to usher in the souls, and you can communicate with souls, and like, well, that's like seances, right? This is like stuff the Bible forbids. And I do like, I'm just going to pin this on Mike Winger so that way no one can be mad at me, where he points out that it does not matter how deeply ingrained a tradition is in a culture. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Now, as I advise someone who is asking because they grew up practicing El Dia de los Muertos and they wanted to be able to, I said, that doesn't mean it's not redeemable. It doesn't mean it's not redeemable. But we need to remember, skulls and skeletons. If you put a skull on a flag and you fly it from a ship, it means pirate. If you put a skull on a bottle in a cabinet, it means poison. Like, skulls mean death. Oh, but it's cultural. Yes, celebrating death was cultural. It's just kind of like saying drinking is cultural for the Irish or for Germans or for Russians or for, right? I mean, that's the idea. It's like culture doesn't make things okay. But we need to recognize that there's a lot redeemable because there is no other day of the year where little kids are going to come to your house for you to give them something. So my advice for Christians, if you live in an area, and I'm like looking at some of you guys who are watching, and I know some of you live in areas where there's not a lot of traffic. Sarah, I don't know if kids are coming out to your place, because you're up and off the road. But Susan, you live in a populated area. Other people, you live in areas where a lot of kids. Our old house, yes. Our current house, no. I'm out in the country now. But if kids are coming, dare I say, maybe if you put up a few decorations for the fall, pumpkins, whatever, right? Whole pumpkins, you can carve a cross in it. something that would draw the kids in so they know that there's candy at this house, or just a big sign and neon lights that says candy inside. And you hand them some candy and a gospel tract. Most people, sadly, aren't going to leave their house to go share the gospel with people. But this one day a year, people will come to your house and take whatever you give them. Use it. That's what we are doing at our church. Secondly, I've seen lots of churches over the years. I've seen this vary in levels. But the point is just that I've seen harvest parties, and everyone knows, you're not coming as the devil, you're not coming as a demon or an axe murderer. But especially for kids in the public schools, where they see all their friends having all this fun and mom and dad won't let me have fun. Well, it's like, well, there's nothing wrong with candy. There's nothing wrong with dressing up as a princess, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with dressing up as a bunny rabbit or whatever else. It's like dressing up is harmless and candy's harmless. And, well, create an alternative location for people to go and have some fun. I've also seen once upon a time, it was kind of an interesting deal. I've got pumpkins in my house, Enrique, if you want to grab one. They're little though. But I saw a church that actually made like a haunted house. But what it was actually like the gospel. And they talked about hell. And they talked all about like, this is hell. And this is what, and they're talking about, and this is how to avoid hell. And they actually attracted people to a haunted house. It wasn't really like, there wasn't scary things, but that was kind of the attraction. So it's a redeemable holiday. I've just liked avoiding most of it. But at the same time, like, and my kids never have really gone trick-or-treating because I can just buy them candy. And Nicole even commented yesterday that a year or two ago, we did try going out to downtown Prosser where they were doing the businesses were doing candy. And Nicole said, like, yeah, I could have my kids dress up in wonderful, wholesome outfits. And then we could go out just trying to have some wholesome fun. But the problem is everywhere you go, kids are dressed up as axe murderers and as demons, and everyone's got blood everywhere. And it's like, it's hard because even if you wanted to try and celebrate the holiday in an innocent way, everywhere you go, it's just like, that's what's involved. Maybe in the future, our church will put on something that's a wholesome alternative for Halloween, a place where people can go. And actually, like, I know our neighbors are doing a trunk or treat, and I don't know where their hearts, I don't know their vision, right? But it's like, I've seen a lot of guys I respect. Ken Ham even just posted something recently I saw as I was getting ready for this, just about creating alternatives, But I will say this. Halloween isn't as pagan in origin as people actually have assumed. When you do real historical research, it's actually Catholic in origin mostly. And then traditions from different places coming together. And it's a lot of how like Christmas is like, why do we have trees and why do we have this and why do we have that? It was just different cultures coming together in America, and then these things come together to make one holiday. Christmas and Easter have a point, a biblical point, versus All Saints Day was merely a tradition. And it started off with, I think, some good intents. But again, it kind of changed and transformed over time. And now we've got what we've got today. So do what you can, though, to redeem it. If you live in a place where kids will come to your house, well, then at least put up a sign and go talk to Enrique, because I believe he bought a whole bunch of Halloween gospel tracts. Or go to the church. Someone will open it up. We've got stacks of those come join me at Revival Church cards, and put the little invitation to church cards and just stick it with each little piece of candy. And if you really want to be an effective evangelist, go buy full-size candy bars. The kids will come back every year. A little piece of Scotch tape, church invite, church invite. church invite. Hey, send them out. Use this as an opportunity. I guess I want to close with that is that, see, Joseph told his brothers that what you intended for evil, God has turned around and worked it for the good. What Satan will use for evil, God will turn around and work to the good. And if we use the logic that we can never redeem or use something just because at one point it was used by pagans, there's not much the pagans haven't used. I remember once a student, I forget what church he attended, but he told me, it's like, yeah, we can't have drums in church because drums were used in Africa as part of pagan African worship. And we can't use that in church because pagans used it first. And it's like, you know what? He's right if that's your mentality. If you're not allowed to use anything pagans have used, well, then you better get rid of drums. You better get rid of this. You better get rid of that. You're going to have very few things left to work with. But if you understand that Psalm 24, all things are the Lord's. Everything in this planet belongs to him. And therefore, we can use things. And we should avoid the directly evil things. And other stuff, we redeem it as best as we can. We try and use it for God's glory. So, again, I don't blame anyone for trying to stay away. I hope those who have an opportunity to make good of it, use it, share the gospel, invite people to church, however. And I hope you and your kids, can find a way to have a little fun and maybe do something different. We have a family we go with every year. There's a family in town that has a little party, and we go there every year, and that's our tradition. My kids get some candy, we all play some games, we hang out with friends, and we do our thing. The kids get to dress up so they don't feel like they're missing out. They get to go home with more candy than we'll let them eat. So, all right, you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys tomorrow back in Exodus. We got some plagues to do. I think we got to finish up chapter 9 tomorrow. So I'll see you guys then. Take care.